Good afternoon, everyone. Kimber, Giana,
Hi, it's good to be here. How are you?
very well.
Hello,
Very
Amandeep.
well. How are you doing?
I'm doing
Yeah.
good. I'm sorry, I'm having some issues, so my camera will be off, but I'm making do
There we
with
go.
what we got.
No problem, Giana. I did find from Veronica that you aren't feeling well, so no issues. But still, thank you for joining, even though you're not feeling great. So really appreciate that. Okay, hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar. Thank you all for joining. My name is Amandeep Singh. I lead the sales team here at ITILITE for North America. I'm excited to be a part of this webinar today, and I'm privileged to be joined by Kimber Bay, the Sales and Marketing Manager at Multimin, and Giana Educate, Office Manager at OSA International, as our guest speakers today. Before I get into today's webinar, I'd like Giana and Kimber to maybe introduce themselves briefly, and then we'll get straight into it. Kimber, if you're trying to speak, you're speaking on mute.
Sorry, technical issues. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. Thank you, Amandeep. My name is Kimber Bay. I am the Sales and Marketing Manager at Multimin USA, and I'm located here at the Fort Collins, Colorado office.
Hey everyone, I'm Giana Educate. I'm located in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am the Executive Assistant Office Manager for OSA International.
Thank you, Giana. Thank you, Kimber, for your introduction. So before we get started with the presentation, a few housekeeping details. First of all, everyone on the webinar today is welcome to ask us questions. So please feel free to drop your questions. It's an open forum, and we will make sure that we address all those questions towards the end. For the next 20 minutes or so, I would be discussing a very old but still very relevant topic with our two guest speakers today, Kimber and Giana. That is whether to let employees self-book business travel or not. Being in the travel industry, I've seen tremendous growth on the travel side, or on I'd say the personal travel side. That cannot be said for business travel as well. Business travel, even today, by a lot of organizations, is managed very traditionally. And because of which, the experience of booking a business travel is very different from booking personal travel. That brings me to the very first question of today's presentation. And Giana, I'd like to start with you. What was your business travel booking process pre-COVID, and why?
So prior to COVID and prior to using ITILITE, we actually used a travel agent who did all of our bookings. So when staff needed to travel, they would send all of their travel requests to our travel agent, and he would get it booked and keep track of invoices and everything. When he needed the invoices to bill the client, he would send us the invoices, and everything was there and ready to go. He was great. I think the only problem with that was we have a lot of travel that goes on throughout the year. Our company does a lot of it. So, and a travel agent is just one person. There would be times when he would book so much travel every day because there's constantly travel requests coming in that he couldn't always get to all of them right away.
Right. And Giana, just to add to that, maybe a follow-up question. How many email exchanges were happening to book one trip?
A lot. Do you mean prior when we were using the travel agent?
That's correct.
Yeah, it was a lot. There were a lot of emails coming in and out all the time.
Oh, great. I'd like to direct the same question to you, Kimber. What was the booking process at Multimin prior or pre-COVID, and why were you booking travel that way?
Sure, thank you. My answer is quite similar to Giana's. I started 20 years ago when we were a startup company. We hired our first sales rep, who then we decided needed to start traveling to trade shows, meetings, and educational seminars to present. At that time, I was also using a travel agency, and what I was more the go-between with them. So I would have correspondence with the sales rep of where they wanted to go, what time, and what airport, and then I would relay that to a travel agent. She would then go ahead and give me some recommendations. I would then turn around and go back to the sales rep and present them. He would then decide whether that was good or not. And when I would go back to the agent again to let her ticket, she would send me the final ticket and I would forward it on. As I'm sure you may have noticed, that is a lot of correspondence, and that was a lot of going back and forth between the three of us. Now, 20 years later, was still doing the travel. However, we've gone up to about 35 employees that are traveling, booking flights and going to different locations. So there was a definite need for something a little bit more efficient.
Awesome, great. Thank you for that response. Now, let's take a step back, right? I speak with a lot of travel managers, office managers, C-level executives as well. And often when talking to them, and especially talking about self-booking options, there are two challenges that comes up typically, which is, hey, our employees will spend hours in looking for the right options. Second, we don't know whether they are booking the best options, or whether we can, they are booking within the policies or the guidelines we have given to them as an organization. So, often these challenges comes up when we are talking to a lot of these people. What are your thoughts? Maybe, Kimber, I'd start with you now. What are your thoughts on whether or not to let employees self-book?
So my biggest concern in the beginning when I was looking into alternate platforms was cost. My concern was, are the sales reps going to indeed book the most cost-effective flight? And are they going to stay within the guidelines that I have lined out to the actual sales rep? Once I found that you can set parameters and require approval prior to ticketing, it took care of all the issues.
Great. And Giana, what has been, what are your thoughts with regards to letting employees self-book, and do you resonate with some of the challenges that Kimber just mentioned?
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely agree with Kimber. I think that in a lot of ways it is extremely helpful, because rather than one person doing everything, you have everyone working together, keeping track of booking their own travel. Being that OSA International is such a large and growing company, it was difficult keeping track of booking their it was difficult in the beginning trying to get everyone trained on the platform and know the ins and the outs of what the system can do. But overall, staff booking for themselves and working together does make things easier in a lot of ways. ITILITE has been very helpful in customizing the platform to specifically suit OSA's needs. So changing things around, accessing things in a different way, just kind of making the system our own. And there are some kinks, just like any travel platform, but because of how responsive ITILITE is, it has made things extremely helpful.
Now, this is pre-booking, right? Now, another common challenge I hear from a lot of professionals, especially post-booking, is one of the reasons we don't allow employees to self-book is what if they need to make a last-minute change? Or what if they require any assistance while they are on the road? And hence, we go to a travel agent who could support us. But even that is limited to within working hours, right? So, Giana, maybe the question is directed to you. What was that? Did you face similar challenge as well? And how is that coming up for you right now, since you have allowed employees to self-book?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just going to put it out there. Not everybody is tech savvy, including myself. So, getting familiar with the system was difficult at first just because it's new and ITILITE does things a different way than how we were all used to. Another thing is for staff that have never had to deal with booking travel before, but now they do have to book their own travel. You kind of have to trust that they are doing it correctly. There's been times when travel has been booked, but they got the birthday wrong or the spelling of a name, or they put in the wrong job number, or, you know, whatever it is, it's just new territory for everybody.
Yep. And over months now, have you seen people getting used to booking on their own, and how's that been?
Yes, no, and ITILITE is very responsive too. So, yeah, anytime someone needs help with something or there's been difficulty in some area, they're on it.
Great. Kimber, directing the same question to you.
Yeah, I think the biggest benefit on my part is I'm no longer getting Saturday phone calls and 4:30 a.m. phone calls because of a time change where a traveler had their flight canceled last minute and they're calling me, help, what do I do now? So with your chat and your email and your phone, they've been able to get assistance right away. I've had multiple times recently when COVID ended and travel started again. You know, the flights were pretty restricted and they would end up being canceled quite often by the airlines to condense their flights. So it was happening quite a bit in the beginning when travel first opened up. And I found that the staff was able to resolve their own issues with you, and that you were able to rebook them or get them their flight changed to a different date, a different time, and I was no longer getting the 3 a.m. phone calls.
That is exciting.
Glad to know that, Kimber. Right. So in the last decade or so, the rise of consumer tools like the likes of the kayaks, have set an expectation around the general public that, hey, if you are using a self-booking tool, it needs to be intuitive and it needs to be fast and easy to manage travel without having to spend hours upon finding the right option, right? What has been the feedback from your employees in general? Maybe Kimber, I'll start with you. What has been the feedback from your employees in general about their experience of managing that booking themselves and without having someone to manage that end-to-end process for them?
Yes. So far, I've had 100% positive. Sorry, Amandeep, are you still speaking? You're muted.
No, I'm not speaking.
Okay. So far, all of my feedback has been very, very positive. Once they learned a little bit more about the program and the expand button, the expand function, which allows them to see all flights, then they were able to move about comfortably and decide which flight is going to best suit them. And everybody has been able to book their own flights with no issues.
Great. And Giana, what about you?
Yes, the majority has definitely been positive. The only thing that was difficult, I mean, like I said, it was just getting to know the platform and learning the ins and the outs of it. And once everyone has gotten familiar with it, it has been wonderful. So
Awesome. And as the go-to travel person in both your respective organization, what have you been able to do differently now, today, that wasn't possible earlier? So Giana, maybe I'll start with you.
yeah, so having all transaction reports and invoices in one place is a huge one. Instead of having to track down anyone or trying to find what you're looking for, everything is right in front of you with a click of a button. Literally, so every transaction that OSA has made through ITILITE will be right there instantly. That is what originally sold us about ITILITE. It's been great.
Great. And Kimber, your thoughts?
Yes, the reporting is definitely a plus. I really appreciate the fact that I can sort the reports. I can pull them in different manners, whether I want to see per traveler, per month. I can view them in different ways. Prior to this, I was just getting a data dump of who booked and how many and what the flight cost was. So I wasn't getting that detail that I needed to be able to do a complete analysis. And then my favorite part is I've got a lot more time on my hands now that they're able to book their own flights, and I don't do that 9 times correspondence back and forth. Do you want this flight? Okay, how about this flight? So having more time to be able to concentrate on other things is definitely a plus.
Awesome. I was just about to ask. Plus, you are able to sleep well now over weekends and after office hours, right?
That's right.
Great. You guys have been wonderful. I think this brings me perhaps to the last question of the forum today, and I'd like to leave the floor open for questions to be answered as well by the audience joining in. What advice do you have for the people attending, especially the ones who are still managing their business travel traditionally? Kimber, I'll start with you.
My advice is simple: give it a try. Because there's no contracts required, because there's no minimum flights required, it's risk-free. And it has just helped me so immensely that I'm a true believer, and I just say give it a try.
Thank you. And Giana, your thoughts?
I think it's important for every company to find whatever works for them and whatever is the most helpful. Some things work for different companies, but also are not for every company. So I think it's extremely important to know your staff and know what helps and motivates them. You never want things to become more stressful than they are helpful. So always find the most effective, simple, and yet elaborate way of making things work. But also remember that you cannot please everybody. So find what works best for your company and run with it.
Great. Thank you, Kimber. Thank you, Giana. You have been really helpful. I hope this has been a very educated session for everyone attending today as well. I do have a few questions from the people who joined, and I'm sure they would love to get your thoughts and experience, Kimber and Giana, as to how it has helped you as an organization. So the first question I have here is, do you think employees waste a lot of time if provided the freedom to self-book? Maybe, Kimber, I'll start with you.
Sorry, I didn't catch the first part of that question.
Sure. Do you think employees waste a lot of time if provided the freedom to self-book?
Oh, did they waste a lot of time? No, actually, I think it has been the opposite. Prior to when they were able to self-book, it was a lot more time consuming for us with the back and forth, back and forth. By the time our sales reps are ready to ticket a flight, they know when and where they need to go. So their process has always been very, very quick. They get on, they find the flights that come up first that are the suggested ones. If not, they hit expand and all the flights are right there. And I think that it's been a very big time saver for us, as a matter of fact.
Great. And Giana, what's your opinion?
Yeah, I agree with Kimber. I think it has been, I mean, as long as you know the system and you know how to do everything, I think, like me, I could just go in and click a button and then all the information of a staff member is already saved. So I don't need to import manually their information. So I just click their name and then they're ready to go. So it's been a time saver in a lot of ways. It does have, I mean, there have been, scenarios where we've gotten information wrong or, but we've always managed to come around it.
Right. This brings me back to one of the earlier points, Kimber, you touched upon. And this is the second question I have in the forum from the people joining as well is some businesses are afraid to lose control if they allow employees to self-book. What are your thoughts?
So we were able to set parameters and have different levels. So we have some people who are flying from California to New York, which is a very expensive flight. So he has a higher dollar ceiling where he can go to before he needs approval prior to ticketing, opposed to somebody who I have in Colorado who's flying to Montana. Those are a lot cheaper flights. His ceiling is lower. So we were able to go ahead, with the program, you're able to customize not only as a whole, but each level of different employees that's able to book. And so that was very helpful for us to be able to maintain control of who is booking what types of flights.
Great.
Yeah, I think, especially for getting to manually edit, for even if you wanted to for every staff member, you could go in and select a certain level for just a specific staff member. So that's extremely nice. And then we set a policy. So no matter what, they can't just go in and book whatever they want. They have to stay within that policy and they have to stay within that level if they are in a specific level. So that's been great.
Awesome. I think this is, I welcome more questions from the audience, but this is the third and the last question I have from the audience joining in on the webinar today. It's with reports and with being able to see the travel spend, how have you been able to monetize your travel spend better? So Kimber, maybe just by understanding I think the question really is, just by understanding what you're spending, has that helped you bring in efficiency in your travel spend in general and what you've spent traditionally and what you're spending now?
Sure, absolutely. It's been a great big help to be able to see also who is spending what. So with the reports, you can sort them and see them by who is going and the amount of their cost of their flight. So that's also helpful. So you can pick out if there's possibly somebody who is continually traveling versus their ROI. Are those trips being beneficial to the company? So that's where it's been very, very helpful in evaluation of cost efficiency of their specific travel.
Right. And Giana, you also touched upon the reporting aspect. So besides just getting the data in one place, how else has the reporting piece helped you?
Yeah, so I just love how customizable it has been. So for OSA, we use job numbers to identify what shows or you know what's happening for events and everything. So we use job numbers to identify them. So within the reports, we're able to go in and sort just the job number if we want to. So it'll pull just the transactions for that specific job number that we pick. And then again, you could customize the policy. It's just all customizable to suit your needs, and that has been extremely beneficial.
Great. I think I'm sure the audience, whoever asked that question, were able to get their answers. We still have 4 minutes left for today's session. Would love to leave the floor open for any additional questions to be answered. If not, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining for the webinar today. I hope this was helpful for everyone attending today. And you have been able to get some understanding, and maybe my hope is that organizations or individuals are able to elevate some of their concerns with regards to allowing employees to self-book and managing or still keeping that control as an organization, but giving the freedom to your employees to book efficiently, quickly, without having to have a lot of manual exchange of communication between multiple people. That said, Kimber, Giana, I'd like to take the opportunity and thank you both. I think your experience and your, what you've shared today, I'm sure will immensely help people in evaluating the right options for their organizations as they look to modernize business travel for their companies. I thank you again, and hoping for an opportunity to speak with you both again soon.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure being here.
Yep.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for joining. Appreciate that. Bye.
Thank you, guys.